Hello, friends. How are you? So, I am recording this on Sunday, and do you know what? The weather has held out okay. So, for the first time ever, I managed to get my partner out on a bike. Hasn't been on it in 30 years, and we did it. And I managed to also connect my youngest daughter Alexa's bike seat to the bike. So, I won't tell you the disgraceful amount of time it took just to connect the bike seat, but we did it. We went to a local park and safely rode around the park, no accidents. So my partner didn't fall off his bike. I didn't fall off with legs. Hot mess. It was all very good. So do you know what? I feel like this will set the tone now for the rest of the week. So everybody's happy. So I wanted to talk today about schools. One of the videos that I posted, was it day 25? I think it was called something like Dear White People, You Might Fuck Up, but It's Okay, something like that. And somebody commented, Hi Melissa, and basically just talked about her experience with the schools and trying to get the schools on board. Now, my caveat to me talking about this is that I am just sharing my experience of what I've done with the schools, but understand that my position is slightly different with this. So, I'm a trustee on the Board of Trustees for a group of selective and non-selective schools. So, where you take the 11 plus and you don't take the 11 plus. And sorry, just knocking the laptop there. And when I recorded my day one video on the 31st of May, one of the things that I did straight off the bat, because remember, I was in this place of like fear and worry, like, oh my God. So I thought, shit, I better email my the CEO and the chairman of the board of the trustees. So I emailed them both. Actually, let me see if I can find the email. Give me 1 minute so I can tell you what I said. So it said, right, basically, I'm writing in my capacity as a board member, but also as a human being who is super fed up. So, I'm always honest, even in my email communications. So I basically said that I'm not sure how closely they've been following what's been happening in the US, but I talked about the fact that it's trickled over here for slightly different reasons, and how I feel and how a lot of other Black people who I'm talking to, particularly those with primary school or secondary school age children, and I said that I basically recorded a video because I've been surprised and upset about the lack of public recognition and support from the very same businesses who have not only hired me to talk about inclusion as a speaker, blah, 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 but who also make public declarations about their commitment to diversity and inclusion. But I've said that's a separate story. So the reason why I emailed them, we'll just get into this now, is to share the 20-minute video I did. So that's the day one video. So they can get an insight into where I'm coming from. And I've just said to them, all I ask is that you watch with an open mind and without any prejudice. Not that they would, but I've also said that I would encourage your teachers to watch it. And it has on that day, like it was starting to pick up some traction, but I hadn't really publicly shared it. All I did was post it on LinkedIn and on YouTube, sorry, and that was it. So at that time, it hadn't gone anywhere. And I said the second reason why I'm emailing is just to put it on your radar, particularly because this may affect Black students, meaning what's going on in the States. Black Lives Matter, is it starting, the protests are starting to come here. So thinking about Black students. So remember, my oldest daughter is 12, so she's in secondary school. And I said, that my daughter is talking about what's going on with her Black friends, and she's just 12. And obviously, clearly, they don't understand the complexity of the situation, but they are seeing certain things. Now, one thing that I will say is that you cannot underestimate kids, right? So my daughter's 12-year-old. Um, as you know, we are a family. Well, me and her, we like a TikTok video. But she will show me things about Donald Trump as an example, where he said certain things that she thinks is outrageous because all of her friends are circulating. Now, they might not understand the deep context like we do, but there are some people who think, oh no, my kids don't notice. They don't listen. They pick up more than what we think. And then the third reasons why is I've said, well, okay, I can be a slight, you know what, sometimes I can be a bit of a drama queen, but in my mind, at this time, this is how I felt. So I said, look, to say that I've put my livelihood on the line here is to talk about this as an understatement. within 15 minutes of me sending my newsletter. So remember, before all of this, I used to send a weekly newsletter, HREY, the newsletter. So it was curated news about business, tech, and HR. That weekend, when I recorded that video, I decided to basically hijack my own newsletter and talk about this issue with a link to the video. So I had already pressed send on that newsletter going out before I'd emailed the CEO and the chairman. And within 15 minutes of me sending the newsletter, I had like a decent handful of people unsubscribe. So clearly, in my mind, this is what I was caught up with. Anyway, and then I said, if you feel that my outspokenness in this area may be a problem for the trust, do let me know. And I get it. It's not my intent to cause any issues for you. And I absolutely respect any decisions you may need to make about whether or not you can have me associated with the MAT. That's like what they call the education thing. So basically, giving them a heads up for lots of different reasons. Now, my my CEO is brilliant, and and just to rewind back, I volunteered to be on the board of trustees for these group of schools based on I saw her at like a parents briefing thing that you go to when your children are leaving primary school and they go to year 7, and I just thought, like, I just love her. Like, she's just, she's great. Love to see if I can help. So I just sent her a message on LinkedIn. It's like, hey, if you need somebody. And anyway, we got on like a house on fire. And the beauty is I had just, I think I was pregnant when pregnant with Lex when we had the parents' evening. And then Lex was maybe like 2 months, maybe 2 or 3 months when I started as like a trustee. And every meeting, I was in the school quite a lot, so I had to see, because I help out with, things where I can, right? Because obviously my background is HR, so help out with a few bits and pieces. I was bringing Lex in with baby back in the days when she was good and didn't say boo to a ghost. Bring her in, not an issue. And I've been in loads of times with Lex, loads of times. So it just wasn't an issue. And I'm always super appreciative of that, because you listen, we all know in life and in business and all of those sorts of things, that is not a usual thing. I remember this was pre-pandemic, so before we got used to seeing kids gate crashing, Zoom calls and all of that good stuff. So that was really cool. But anyway, so when I sent the email, she called me within about half an hour, and this was on a Sunday, and basically said, A, don't be stupid, B, don't be stupid, C, don't be stupid. Super supportive. She said that she'd watched the video and gave her loads of stuff to think about, blah, 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 blah. Also, the chairman separately, so they weren't connected on the same email. He emailed me and said, don't be silly, don't be silly, don't be silly. And basically, like, if this is going to cause an issue for the trust in the way that um, you know, they wouldn't want you on the board, then I'm not going to be on the board either. You see, this is what support looks like. He's a super cool guy, so I'm very lucky to have a great CEO and a great chairman who are just great individuals anyway, and I respect them hugely. But with this, they were very supportive. Now, they could have just stopped it there, and the CEO, she could have just gone, well, you know what? Like, I've watched the videos, gave me stuff to talk about. She didn't. So all the teachers of the group of schools that I'm a trustee for have seen my day one video, or like I did a short version, so I'm not sure which one they did, but clearly you can find it, so they have looked. They've had conversations about it. My daughter's school in particular has had a assembly about it. They've incorporated, just even as a discussion point, this whole piece about Black Lives Matter, from what I know, because my daughter tells me, into like one of their lessons. I can't even remember the name of the lesson, but they've done that. So now, in all honesty, would they have done that if I hadn't have been me, meaning my position on the board and the fact that I emailed and said, you know what, I'm doing this and this and this? Possibly not. So the reason why I'm sharing that is, if you are a parent and you're now cognizant, because either you're a parent of a black or a biracial children, because as you know, I've got 2 children, and my youngest daughter is biracial. So if you're seeing all of this stuff and thinking, oh my God, I'd want the school to be doing something about this, even if it's talking to the children or whatever else it is, and or you're white or non-black, and because you've been doing your own reading and just learning, and just, as I've said before, like, your eyes have been open to, what the world really looks like if you're not white, and you feel like your school should do more, or you haven't seen or heard anything, then I would urge you to just go and approach the head teacher. So email them, call them, or whatever else it is. I mean, I'm lucky for lots of different reasons. Like this is clearly why I was a trustee for this, for these groups of schools, because the schools are great. The head teacher of my daughter's school in particular is amazing.com and super open, super approachable. You can talk to him on a level, and there would have been no issues. So maybe even if I wasn't on the board, I still would have felt like I still would have done the same thing. I would have just done it from a different angle. But I would say use your voice and just talk to the school. Find out, because sometimes they do stuff and they don't always tell parents. They might be talking about it, or the teachers might be talking about it. And I know we're living in this remote working, so my daughter lives their life on Microsoft Teams, and you get emails from the school and whatever else it is. But I would say there's nothing stopping you from proactively going to the school if you feel like they should be doing more. And because I think for some head teachers, if they don't have somebody like me, or somebody potentially like you who's going to go, yeah, I'm going to do that tomorrow, then I go back to this whole thing about not knowing what to do. And because they're feeling uncomfortable, they're just thinking, oh my God, do I say something? Do I not say something? One of the things I will say is when the CEO wrote to all the parents of the schools, just, they do like a newsletter, but they did specifically mention Black Lives Matter and da da da. Not all the parents were happy. So they got anonymous letters, obviously. So I do think it's worth having a conversation with the school. It's a difficult one because it's very personal. Like I had to, I mean, to be honest, I wasn't so much thinking about Tia being in school when I approached the CEO and the chairman initially. I was thinking about it from my board position and just being cognizant of what might happen, when there was a bit more of publicity around what I was saying. But if they had decided, let's just say, if they had decided, actually, we don't want you as part of the board, that would have made me question about Tia being in the school, if I'm completely honest. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. But I can't tell you what I would have done because I'm not in that situation, and I don't believe in giving like hypothetical situations. I do think it's very individual in terms of what you do next, because there is a reality that you might go to the school, and depends on where the catchment area is, particularly if you're a black parent, you might find you might be living in an area that's very white in terms of the demographics. So therefore, there is, this idea of social capital comes into play, right? Because the head teacher might agree that something needs to be done, but is so fearful of the reaction of the other white or non-black parents that they decide actually they're going to preserve that safety above everything else. That might mean that they don't say anything. It's the same thing again if you're sending your kids to private school. The same thing might play out as well, because in that situation you might not get the donations from the parents and all of that other stuff. So some of the head teachers and the principals might be thinking, like, they might go, yeah, I agree, it's awful, or it's awful and it's terrible, and I was too shocked and I was saddened, and all the rest of it, but actually don't commit to anything more than that. And I think you just have to make the decision, how much that sits well on your spirit or not. If I thought for a second that Tia would go through the experiences that I went through, whereby the teachers did not challenge any of that behaviour from the students or from the parents, because let me tell you, it ain't just the kids, and sometimes it's not even the kids, it's the parents, then I would go through the hassle and rigmarole of taking her out and finding another school, etc., etc., because it just, a few years of convenience will give you 10, 20 years of damage if you're not careful. So, but I do recognize it's really personal. So that's why I wanted to put the caveat around this. It probably doesn't answer like 110% of the questions in this area, but I just thought I'd share, like, this is what I did, this is why I did it. From what I know, this is what my daughter's school has done, and maybe that might give you some ideas. But if nothing else, you can always send them like my day one video, or find one of my videos that best speaks to maybe some of the points that you would like them to be aware of, to context what you're asking them to do, or to context the conversation. Because that's what my videos are there for. It's to help other people facilitate those conversations. So I hope that helps, and enjoy the rest of your day. I know it's Monday by the time that you're watching this, so have a good rest of the day.